Welcome to the Grandpa channel, where stories don't fade, they get recorded. I'm Steve Harris. My grandkids call me Rivers. This podcast is where grandpas and grandchildren pull up a chair, turn on a mic, and let her rip. Grandpa stories are chock full of wisdom, life lessons, and frankly, funny as hell. Your stories are the magic elixir to help your grandkids navigate Mr. Toad's wild ride, aka life. Let's Grandpa. Listen up, grandpas. Have you actually pulled the trigger on recording your life story? I'm talking video, baby. They want to remember your corny jokes, your crooked smile, your rugged good looks, and the jaunty bounce of your voice. What if I told you there was a really easy way to do this? Recently, I sat down and I told my life story on video. Not the whole thing, but the good stuff, the messy stuff, the funny stuff, the parts I didn't want to forget and the parts that I did not want my kids and my grandkids to forget. Planted Media made it so easy. They came to me, set up everything, and then they did some editing voodoo magic that made me look like $1 million. Go to plantedmediaco.com and tell them Rivers sent you, and you'll get a nice little Grandpa Channel discount. All right, back to the show. Good morning, and welcome to the Grandpa Channel. We have a delightful guest this morning, full of vim and vigor, and I think she's 39. I'm not quite sure, but she has the energy of a 39-year-old. Anyway, her name is Kathy Healey. Kathy, one of the things that you don't know that why we were interested in your story is our slogan right now is helping grandpas connect with grandchildren. And so obviously you're not a grandfather, but I love some of the ideas that we've already been talking about how to connect with grandchildren. And I want you to tell us a little bit about your grandkids, but especially tell us how you've been able to become a very vital part of their growing up.
Well, lucky for me, first of all, good morning and thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. In the late 90s, before these children were born, well, one other child had already been born, I went to work for America West Airlines. They then merged with US Air, then they merged with American. I stayed with them and eventually retired from American. I fly free the rest of my life. Stand by. So I can go to the airport. If there's a seat, I go on. Most of the time it's by a toilet because nobody wants to sit there. So I'm able to go to the birth of a child. If I live in Las Vegas and they live in Virginia or they live in Michigan or they live in Texas or they live in California, I can jump on a plane and be there by the time she delivers. So my goal is to connected birth, connect at age 2, connect at age 3 months, and be there if you need me. The third grandchild was born 6 weeks early. So the mother was in one hospital, the baby was in another hospital in the NICU, and the father was trying to take care of the mother who was ill. My husband, the grandfather, he went to be with the mother and the son, and I would be with the child in the NICU.
Oh, wow.
And I held her hands, spent the night, and sang Mary Had a Little Lamb for about 16 hours. Of course, they had to change her diaper and things like that. Now 22, she's at Cal State Fullerton and in final senior year. But anyway, she's thriving. I sat with her for the first 16 hours of her life and then went to be with mother, then went back to her. But I didn't live in California at the time. I was living in Nevada. So you can go anywhere, anytime, anyhow, any place.
You know what that sounds like? It sounds like that's your superpower, Kathy.
If it's a superpower, thank you, American Airlines. So the interesting part about my life is I can do anything at the drop of a hat. Just ask me.
Yeah.
I want to be part of a shower for graduating from high school, a dance recital, a baseball game, a soccer game, any kind of sports activity. I can be there, even if it's just 1 hour. I am out from Nevada. I'll fly into LA, do a soccer game, and I'll be home by 6.
That sounds like a superpower to me.
Well, if you're patient, now you don't always get on the plane when you fly standby. Sometimes you have to wait. It's like have short hair and
Yeah.
patience.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how do I include my husband? And how does the grandpa get involved? Yes, I don't make him. He does activities with the girls, the men. We call them on their birthday and they say, "Hi, Grandma. Hi, Grandpa." We send letters. We do silly things. We do, just like you and I are doing right now, connection through emails, text. I know how to text. I had to learn how to text. I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I have to learn all this stuff. It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
But they absorb it at the age of 2 days, 2 weeks. They're smarter than us by the time they're 3.
In my case, it's by the time they're 2, but you're smarter than I am.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we have as we grow, we're learning. As they grow, we're learning. And as they get older, they want the grandparents there, but they kind of want us off to the side. They want their friends.
Yeah.
Okay. So when grandpa comes, what do you talk about? What do you do? How do you treat your grandpa? How do you treat your grandma? You just sit down and you listen.
Mm-hmm.
You have to listen to what they have to say. They don't say, "Where were you in Vietnam?" These kids don't know about Vietnam. They actually don't really teach it in school anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that cursive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't teach things. So the girls don't know about war. They know about Afghanistan and know about Israel, but they don't know about where their grandpa came from, how he served the military, what planes he flew, and they don't know what he did for a living. They just know he's in his life. And he sits with them and he listens. You have to absorb what they want to talk about.
Right.
You can't talk about yourself. They're not interested.
Mm-hmm.
They love you, but they don't grasp it. I think because I have all ages from 31 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the 31-year-old called me yesterday and said to me, "Grandma, I sent her some candy for Halloween." People don't send candy anymore, they send text. But I sent a bag of candy to a 31-year-old, and she was kind of surprised that anybody would put that in. It takes time to send a thank you note.
Yeah.
All those things are important, but they don't really grasp it because their friends don't do it. If their
Yeah.
friends did it, they would do it.
I think, if you and I were to chat about ways that I want to talk specifically about grandpas. And
Sure.
see, you're hitting it out of the ballpark, Kathy, with, what you're doing. But I think a lot of grandpas think, well, my grandkids live out of state and I'm not very good with the phone or going, this, that, and the other. And candidly, I think we sometimes tend to be a little lazy. Would you agree or
Well,
disagree with that?
I think boys that are 60, 70, and 80, they grew up being macho.
Mm-hmm.
And they played basketball and they weren't involved in kindness. Their parents, threw them at the door and they wanted to be successful. And, a lot of them went to college. But you know what my husband does that I taught him? He writes thank you notes.
Really?
He writes notes when they call, when it's their birthday. He'll send a birthday card. He'll sit down and put a stamp on a card, but it doesn't have to be their birthday. It could be Easter, just to put "I love you" card with the stamp. Now, it might cost 60 cents for the stamp and $1.50 or $4 for the card, but they don't receive cards from anybody else but their grandpa. Mm-hmm. They have a special touch. You get mail. Who gets mail anymore? You get text, you get email, you get vision, you get, videos. But when the mailman comes and your mother puts a card on your pillow, nobody else gets that except you from your grandpa.
Well, it's funny when you're talking here, I've got this little post-it pad and I'm just jotting down some ideas that come into my head. I've learned a lot just from listening to you. If you were to, let's say you had 30 seconds, what kind of advice speaking as a grandma, a very active and, involved grandma, what kind of advice would you have for grandpas?
I would say, shut up and listen.
Can I quote you on that?
I'm sorry, I'm a little blunt.
That's okay. That's great.
Grandpas have a tendency to think that they want to tell their granddaughter or grandson something,
Yeah.
but they often don't take the time to listen what the grandchild has to say to them because that's what is important to the grandchild. It's
Yeah.
not important to the grandpa. They don't. I think a lot of grandpas care, they're sincere, but they don't know how to listen carefully. You have to listen consistently and listen carefully to what they have to say. And if you have to take notes, go ahead. But
Yeah.
just shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great advice, I think. The thing that I admire what you've done too is that you sort of took the bull by the horns and, back in the 90s and you got that job that gives you the ability to go over, go anywhere on a moment's notice. I love that, Kathy. I just think that's awesome. Now, I'm not recommending that 75-year-olds go to Delta Airlines and try to apply, but I
Yeah.
just think that was a great solution for some of the things you're looking at that you have
Well,
in front of you.
you probably think that I was a flight attendant or I was at the job. I did luggage.
No,
I
I
was
was
lug
thinking, I was going to ask you whether you did what you did, and you were a luggage person, right?
at at the age of 52.
Uh-huh.
I went to the airline
Uh-huh.
and that was before 9/11. So you could walk into an airport and go to a job interview. At 52, these children were being born and stuff, and I wanted to get out. And in the meantime, my mother was ill, so I was spending all our retirement money. And what happened was I was spending our retirement money, and all of a sudden, uh, I said, I have to find something where I can get free flights. So I went, I applied for luggage. You know what they said? CSR is down the hall, which means customer service rep. Here's a woman who's 52, has gray hair. I have a little jacket on and pumps. And they looked at me and said, what in the hell can you do? But so I said, look, I want to do luggage because at night I had a job at Caesar's Palace as a sommelier.
Yeah, yeah.
So I worked in the day 4 hours a day and I put luggage on the airplane. For every 700 men, there's 40 women.
Wow.
They just, and women, I'm not saying they can't handle it. It's tough because you're throwing luggage is thrown at you. You take the luggage off and you move it here. So I did luggage for 15 years.
Wow.
In the heat in Las Vegas, in the
Yeah.
cold in the Las Vegas mornings.
Yeah.
But you just have to, the men who were surrounding me were 22, 25, 35, and they were big. They were stronger than me. They were better than me. I just had to learn to be twice as good as a woman to do luggage.
That's great. Well,
So now
yeah.
I fly free the rest of my life.
Well, it's funny because if somebody were to say, summarize what Kathy had to say, do you know how I'd summarize it?
Shut up.
Shut up and listen. I love that. Yeah.
I hate to be so blunt, but if people can't listen, they can't learn. You have to learn what that child wants to tell you about being your granddaughter, your grandson. My grandson does Legos, and he does Rubik's Cube and things like that. He works with his hands, and now he's a logistics operator at Costco. And so he's 22, graduated as a logistics specialist in Eastern Michigan University. So he got a job. He works at the logistics center and he gets everything wrapped and on the trucks to the different Costco's. He's at that's what he does.
I'm going to take a walk out into the dark. I'm going to hazard a guess, Kathy. I'm guessing that you love being a grandma. Am I correct?
I love being alive.
Mm-hmm.
I sharing my happiness with my grandchildren and my eagerness to move forward, my eagerness to listen to what they have. They have bad days and they struggles. Grandchildren struggle, even though they don't put that on their YouTube and they don't put that on Instagram, but they struggle, just dealing with the momentum of life. So if I listen to what they have to say, then I can learn and then I can teach. I teach, but I teach at little tiny intervals. They don't listen to me. They can learn from me, but only little tiny pieces at a time.
Aren't you thinking, though, that by all the time that you've spent, that you build up this foundation and then you're able to maybe pull some stories out of your past and do some teaching? I think you earn it by listening, right? To kind of
You
establish
do.
more.
One time I took four of the girls live in Central California, so I took them to the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. They didn't really know who Ronald Reagan was. They see Reagan and they saw her dresses and all the things he did for his presidency. And when I took them there, we took little baby steps. You could spend 3 or 4 days at that museum, but go to the Ronald Reagan Museum or the Richard Nixon Museum or the John F. Kennedy Museum, Gerald Ford, whoever you go to, if you take them to museums, I've taken the girls to the Getty Art Museum, but it's much more than that. Getty was a phenomenal teacher by giving his money for crafts to craft the ideas of learning through art. So you can't always talk to them. You have to let them learn by their vision, and they can learn just by being someplace else other than with their friends. Take them out of their environment.
Great idea. Well, I just want you to know that I have really enjoyed speaking with you. You make me feel more energetic, Kathy. So, and it makes me want to be a better grandpa. And I think that, that I need to shut up more and just listen. And I love being a grandpa, but I'll tell you what, I know that I have room to improve. And
we all do, everybody. So, I'm happy to be with you and share my ideas and share with you your ideas to me.
Yeah, we can all learn from each other.
I have one more suggestion. I've written a children's book.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yes. And the children's book is about my mother and how she guided us through our life. It's called NANS, NANS, Alphabet for Children. It's all about the children and how she helped them grow through the world and push them out the door to be creative. It's not my name. My pseudonym is Mary Jane Splain, is my author name. But so the children's book is really for like ages 6 through 13 in that realm. But I wanted to write a children's book from the knowledge I learned from my mother and father. My father served in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. And so he was a naval officer and my mother was a nurse. So I have guidance from other generations. Then I have to pass that guidance forward so they can pass it on to another generation.
Yep, you do. Well, that's another beautiful thing. I think that, that grandparents can be this bridge or a fountain of ancestry. I think all of us have these wonderful stories about our parents, our great grandparents, for instance, and other people that we need to share. But I don't know if we can share unless we shut up and listen. So,
you know what? Being blunt sometimes works.
No, it does. I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll attach a link to your book. That sounds like a great book. And thank you so much for being our guest this morning. I really appreciate it.
I had fun at your party.
Well, I'm glad you did. And thank you so much. And thank you for listening to the Grandpa Channel. And thanks to Kathy.
Have a great day.
That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or better yet, tell your favorite grandpa. We're on a mission to gather 1 million grandpas, storytellers, wisdom keepers, and lovable wild cards. Until next time, keep the mic hot, the memories fresh, and the jokes just slightly inappropriate. I'm out of here.